And we're back. Sorry for the bit of a delay there, everybody. While I was gone, I got a little bit married. But just like a petit peu married, just like a sousson. I don't even know what I mean by that. Yes, I got married. It was magical. It was a goddamn party. It was, we had a rock concert, open bar, hors d'oeuvres. It was fabulous. But the upshot of that one was I could really barely speak for most of the last week. So I had a bit of a hiatus from, talking in front of a microphone to be judged by the internet. But we're back now and ready to talk about the Blue Jays. Do we have to? Because the thing of it is, before the hiatus and for pretty much the entirety of the hiatus, the Blue Jays sucked with a capital suck. The last time the Blue Jays looked really good was the first game of the Minnesota series. Then the Blue Jays looked really bad for the rest of that series. They won a game on a really controversial safe call at home plate in extra innings that if I was a Minnesota fan for that one, I would have been livid. Losing 2 games in Baltimore, it would have been a full-out sweep. We absolutely would have been crushing that third game. We got saved by the bell by a rainstorm of all things, so we get to make up that game later. Hopefully Baltimore isn't a freight train at that time. Losing 2 out of 3 at home against Cleveland, the one win was 2 barely enough home runs against an absolutely dominant Tristan McKenzie. We were able to scratch out a 2-1 win there, but we were thoroughly outplayed the whole time. And then Baltimore comes to town and kind of pushes us around again until finally in the last game of the series, the Blue Jays find their self-respect and are able to win a solid game at home against Baltimore, who got it within half a game of knocking us right out of the playoff picture entirely. It was an absolute disaster waiting to happen. And Ross Stripling, yes, the return of Ross Stripling was enough to save our collective. I was about to say bacon, but it's clearly chicken strips. So, chicken strips saved. Obviously, that means the Blue Jays need to go off to New York. But hang on. In very much the same way that playing Baltimore no longer means free wins, come and get 'em, boys, playing New York is no longer the terrifying proposition that it was even a month ago. The Blue Jays come into New York to face a Yankees team that is scuffling. Every bit as bad as, the Blue Jays are. So they're in this thing. Before we get to talking about tonight's game, there are a couple things you want to talk about here. But for the most part, I want to talk about trends that have been going on the last month, and most of them aren't good, spoiler alert. The Blue Jays' starting rotation is really a study in opposites, because you've got Manoah and Gausman, who are 2 of the best in the league this year. For some reason, Gausman isn't getting the hype talk about for Cy Young. He's not going to win it. It's obviously going to come down to Dylan Cease and Justin Verlander for who's going to win the Cy Young. But Gausman isn't even in the conversation, which is weird to me. If it really is because of pitching wins and losses, I don't know what to say anymore. Manoah's kind of in the fringe talk of the Cy Young, and if he goes absolutely nuclear for the whole rest of the season and doesn't lose any more games and leads the Blue Jays to a massive playoff charge, I think he might get some juice there. But no, again, it's going to come down to Cease and Verlander. But then on the opposite side of the spectrum, the Blue Jays are employing the 2 worst starting pitchers in the American League. Yeah, not just towards the bottom, the bottom, Jose Barrios and Yusei Kikuchi, and that's frustrating. Yusei Kikuchi has been so bad that he has been demoted to going to the bullpen, where, that's not going to be much better. I would love to be wrong. It'd be great to have an effective left-handed pitcher not named Tim Meza, but I'm not going to hold my breath, if you get me. Jose Barrios is really frustrating because he is visibly very good. He has very good pitches, and pitch to pitch, inning to inning, he can be absolutely dominant, but when things start to go bad, they tend to snowball very, very quickly, and it's really not clear why. I mean, Barrios is kind of like the same thing of Kikuchi, although kind of not as horrible, because Barrios has a much longer track record of success, and you feel like he is very, very close to just being able to find the one thing that lets him go back to being all-star Jose Barrios. If he can find that, which is such a tantalizing proposition, the Blue Jays are cooking with gas. 2 really good starters and you got a pretty good team. 3 really good starters, you have a chance to win the whole thing in October. I really do believe that. So, the Barrios trying to find himself experiment goes on to part number 47, or wherever he's at right now, in New York against this Yankees team. What could possibly go wrong? Well, initially, nothing, and then the 3rd inning happens, and then it was something. The Blue Jays staked him to a 5-0 lead on a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 3-run unicorn porch dong. Oh, it's so nice when it goes against those guys. Seriously, Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, RIP in peace if he ever comes back to the lineup, those 2 guys have hit more like porch dongs, and DJ LeMahieu does it all the time, where it's a home run in Yankee Stadium and nowhere else, just a little lazy fly ball to right field in this ridiculous ballpark, and it goes out of the yard. Well, Vladdy did that to them in this game, and it was so sweet. Anyway, 5-0 lead for Barrios, so everything's totally fine, right? We know better than that, Jays fans. No, it was not totally fine, like at all. Give up a couple of runs on 3 plays where the ball never leaves the infield, and you're kind of like, oh, it's gonna be one of those. I can just feel it's gonna be one of those. But it wasn't. Good defense, first of all. Great plays from Chapman and Espinal throughout the whole game, but particularly in this inning. And then Barrios just kind of like locked it down. He kind of like was able to, use his fastball to hit the corners, and his breaking stuff was in the zone, but it was completely fooling guys because they had to respect his fastball. And yeah, this is Jose Barrios. This is like capital J, capital B Jose Barrios. This is who he can be. 6 2/3 innings, often dominant. Really no big problems outside of that third inning. It was very, very strong work. Now, again, we're not talking about the Yankees of June here. August Yankees are a much more feeble bunch. These guys are having a really hard time stringing hits together. I can't really lay it all down at Giancarlo Stanton getting hurt as being the difference maker, because there's a whole bunch of things going on there, but it seems like, yeah, without that big towering presence of Stanton in there, propping up Judge. I don't want to say propping up Judge because he's a very good hitter in his own right, but like he's a lot more mortal. And when Stanton's out and Judge is mortal, it's a lot less fearsome of a lineup, honestly. Does that have an impact on the way pitchers pitch to them? They're a little more confident. They can go after guys a little more. They're not trying to nibble on the corners and giving up base runner after base runner. Is psychology that big of an impact on baseball? I mean, there's lots of indicators to say yes, and maybe this is another one. But whatever, the Blue Jays kept having their hitting shoes on, which is really great. The tack-on runs are really great. Everybody got a hit, even Bo Bichette, who looked pretty awful for the whole game, but he did get a single. Good for him. George Springer with a 5-hit night. Man, that guy is good. Like, it's one of those things where, like, George he has this charisma, right? He has this charismatic element to him where, like, this guy can fuck off for like two weeks and you don't even hear his name, and he seems like he's not contributing to winning, and then he has one good game and you're like, Georgie boy, so clutch. But at the same token, I mean, you got Bo Bichette. He's a demonstrably very good player, and he's got pretty good numbers, and actually pretty similar numbers to what George has put up this year, but he's out there sulking, and he's swinging and hacking and kind of like throwing his helmet down and being pissed off, and he can like have a great stretch like he did in the Minnesota series in particular, where he was pretty much our whole offense. And everyone's like, Bo, what are you doing, man? Come on, get it together. You're an all-star. They really are the Gordon Ramsay meme of like, kind of like, oh dear, George, gorgeous. Bo, you fucking donkey. I don't know why I bleep myself. It's the internet. Bo, you fucking donkey. Sorry, back to baseball. Anyway, cruise control for the rest of the way. Kikuchi made his first relief appearance and looked predictably unstable. Gave up 2 base runners right away, but then was able to wriggle his way out of it with no damage done, so that's probably the best case scenario there. And then Jordan Romano came in and closed it down with a 7-run lead. I didn't quite understand that, but it's only 10 pitches, so that's fine, I guess. Blue Jays win. That's what's really fine. Blue Jays win 9-2. That's great. They look good doing it. The Yankees look really bad. This was Jose Barrios, where you're kind of like, I don't know what we're going to get here. But then we've got Mitch White and then Kevin Gausman and then Alek Manoah for the rest of the series, so you gotta feel pretty good about that. Although it's an Apple TV game tomorrow. Again, it's the third one. Why does Apple TV keep loving up on the Blue Jays? I don't know. Their broadcasts are awful, so I'm not looking forward to that part. But whatever. This looked to be the diciest game in the series in terms of like where you feel the least good about what you're putting out there, and the Blue Jays won. Easily, casually, like it ain't no thing. It was wonderful. So we've had this recent terrible stretch, and now they've won 2 games in a row, which puts us back to 9 games over 500, and there is something instructive there, which is throughout this whole season, this is, I feel like, about the 4th time this year that the ceiling has been collapsing, that the season is over, this team is not going to win anything, they're an embarrassment. Fire Ross Atkins, fire Mark Shapiro, burn Skydome to the ground. What are we even doing here? What the hell is baseball anyway? But despite all that, the Blue Jays have been in a playoff spot the whole time. Been somewhere between 6, 7, and all the way up to 13 games over 500 the entire time. Like, this team is not ever so bad as to slip down into the ranks of even really mediocrity. Even when they've been at their worst, they're still pretty good. And when they're at their best, they look like they can beat absolutely anybody, including the Dodgers, including the Astros, including whoever else you want to name. When this team was on its 8-game winning streak, yeah, we did have one of those. When this team was on that 8-game winning streak, they looked like the best team in baseball when everything was working the way it was supposed to. And then we have stretches where the team just can't hit, mostly because we got junk balling lefties falling out of our ears. And then all of a sudden we have a game like tonight where it's guys who are trying to throw velocity, guys who are trying to hump it up there at 99, 100 miles an hour, and the Blue Jays hit them hard, a lot. Like, I sometimes feel like I'm taking crazy pills, because it's just like, it can't be this simple that just like junk balling lefties, Jays can't hit them. Anyone with velocity, Jays can hit them, and that's pretty much the end of the story. And of course it's not, because Baltimore's out there with their flame-throwing bullpen. The Jays pretty much couldn't touch them at all until the very last game of the series. So it's not as cut and dry to that. But it's like, yeah, Frankie Montas, he throws relatively hard, and he's got good splitter and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't scare me. Ryan Yarbrough is what scares me. So I think the Blue Jays will have to face Nestor Cortez in this series, and that's a game where I feel like the offense is going to flounder because, again, he's a kind of a junk-balling lefty, but like a par excellence junk-balling lefty. So that's the game I'm really scared of in this one. I'm not scared of Garrett Cole, and that's kind of a messed up place to be in, right? I'm not really scared of one of the best pitchers in baseball, but Nestor Cortez, how are we going to beat him? I don't know. This is such a polarizing team because they veer so wildly and so suddenly and without any clear impetus between we can't hit Baltimore and absolutely beating down the Yankees. And I understand that there is a large value to be placed in not just what team you're playing, but when you're playing them. A red-hot Baltimore Orioles team, a red-hot any team, is way scarier than an ice-cold and beating itself New York Yankees team. New York's defense in this one is terrible. Josh Donaldson and DJ LeMahieu are about as solid a double play combo and left side of the infield as you're going to find, especially when they have the shifts on and all that. Gleyber Torres is going all over the place. LeMahieu can cover the whole middle of the diamond. They're so solid. But in this game, they turn what should have been a double play ball, which would have ended up with runner on third and 2 out. They managed to turn that into runners on second and third, nobody out, and the Blue Jays got both of those runs in, right? Like, it's not like the Blue Jays couldn't score any runs. As it turns out, they got all the runs they needed in the 5th inning, no bad defense required. But it's not like the Yankees played crisp baseball here. They're kind of beating themselves. I'm saying this is a really excellent time to be playing the Yankees. And after we're done with the Yankees, we're going to Boston. And this is a decent time to be playing Boston, too, because those guys look like they're kind of starting to fold it in, right? They just lost to the Pirates tonight. Like, guys. So the Blue Jays, yes, are playing big, scary, capital name teams with like lots of U.S. media presence, but those teams are kind of scuffling. They're ice cold right now. This is a great time for the Blue Jays to make hay. That's also a phrase that I've used multiple times this season, and it has rarely worked. The Blue Jays have a hard time sometimes beating the teams they should. If they feel like the Yankees are a really good team and they can pounce on them on a weak moment, is that something that gets them fired up? Evidence tonight would suggest maybe yes. Let's keep that going, shall we? In the meantime, we've already solved part of the pitching problem by moving Yusei Kikuchi out of the starting rotation, so we no longer have the worst starting pitcher in the American League in our rotation. We replaced him with Mitch White, who's probably fine. So that's a big improvement. Well, that's a big get after the trade deadline. We take that. And if Barrios, the second worst starting pitcher in the American League, can have a few more innings like he did tonight, that would be pretty good too. I think then we would really have something here. But anyway, I'm back. We're back to business. I'm really excited to be watching this stretch of Blue Jays baseball and then complaining about it on the internet to you guys. So I hope you guys stick around for that. Thank you very much for watching this video and this channel. Like and subscribe, etc. I will see you tomorrow night for the Apple TV broadcast of Mitch White's second outing as a Blue Jay. Man, their broadcasts really suck. Like, they have so much money. How could it suck this bad? We'll talk about that later. Have yourselves a great night.